Voice audible? Audible now? Yeah, fine. So start करें. लोग हैं उसमें क्लास में उसमें? So hi everyone, this is basically a small session it's going to be, and it's basically about political science and international relations. Mostly nowadays it's called as PSIR. Okay, now the idea is simple, to give you a basic go through how this subject works, and if you are going to choose this subject as your optional subject, what will be the benefits, what there are certain things you should be cautious about obviously, and how you should prepare. Now we'll start the class, but the first thing first, let me tell you, handouts दे दिए क्या? Handouts, you will have handouts, fine. So that's a black and white version. In the groups also for online students, the link will be shared, so don't worry for that. Now have you people sat in any other initial session for optional selection or choosing optional classes? No? Okay, fine. So we'll start with from the very basic thing. For example, how you're going to choose your optional subject. So everyone is aware of the basic idea that optional subjects, there are two papers. A second. So there will be two papers. Okay, 250 marks each. Okay, and whichever optional subject you choose, that will decide a huge chunk, because in total 2075 marks including the interview marks, 500 marks just come from optional subjects. Okay, and it works like this, that if you are scoring somewhere around 270, 280 or 300 plus in any optional subject is considered to be exceptional marks. Okay, so anything about 280, 290, 300 plus will assure that you are in the final list, and that is what you should focus on. Now the optional subjects are further then divided into two sections, as in like the humanities subjects or the technical subjects. There are certain technical subjects also, like mathematics, physics, those things, chemistry, those optional subjects are also there. But mostly people choose for humanities subjects because there is a huge benefit with the humanities subject. As such, whichever humanities subjects you take, that is when you are appearing in whether in the preliminary round or in the mains round, the overlapping of the humanities subjects is huge, and that is the reason you will see even people who usually come from the technical background, they also go and choose the humanities optional subjects only. So for example, suppose you are an engineer, but now when you are preparing for civil services, instead of going for normal engineering subject, you will opt for any of the humanities. Now among those humanities subjects also, okay, political science and international relations has been considered the one subject which maximum number of students are choosing all the time. Right now also, if you'll go, almost there are more than 20 optional subjects, 22, 23 optional subjects are there. Out of that, you will see that almost 18 to 20% student everywhere who are appearing in the examination choose political science and international relations. Okay, so there is a very fundamental basic reason for that, and that is the overlap of the subject is so huge. Okay, so that is something you need to be aware of first of all, that okay, there will be two papers. Okay, there will be two papers. Okay, and what you need to understand is the humanities is always chosen because of the overlap, as in whether you are opting for the GS paper or GS as in preliminary round GS paper, or afterwards in the mains round also you will have GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 essay. Everywhere you will have the overlap of humanities subject, and it will be overlapping with all the subjects, whether it's history or political science and the subjects also. But in those also, if you will see, the political science and international relations is the one which will have the maximum overlap. So much so that, for example, people say that the GS paper 2, which will have your polity, you people have attended some of the GS classes yet? Yeah, sure. So you will have the subjects like polity, governance, international relation. There's a direct overlap in totality. So if you have a political science optional, you will be able to tackle those questions very easily. Even in the preliminary round, when the question is about from the polity section or the governance section, even there are basic 4 to 5 questions in the preliminary round also from the international relations. So those factual things are something which a political science student don't face a problem to solve. Okay, like, and therefore if you'll see, if we'll move from paper to paper. For example, in GS paper 1, you will have subjects like history, geography, okay, society. These are the sections which are covered in GS paper 1. Okay, and in that section also you will see that a huge chunk of overlap is there. I will explain you that with the help of the syllabus which will come. I'll show you on the board, and you also have the handouts. Now, so because of this overlap, this is a consistent practice that almost 18 to 20% of the students are taking political science and international relations only. Okay, there's no rocket science. It's a very basic fundamental idea. Since that's a simple thing. If you read less and more questions will come from there, obviously you are going to choose that thing. Okay, so that is a very fundamental thing. Nothing more than that, no rocket science in that. So we'll directly jump into, and I'll give you a basic idea that what basically is there in the political science syllabus, and if you are going to opt it, what all you have to study. Okay, so if you don't go to UPSC website to download the syllabus, okay, I'll provide you syllabus in a much simplified manner, because we'll go over there. Things are written in a very broad way, and that is something which not only UPSC but Government of India does all the time. Like whenever you will see any government approved defined syllabus, whether it is in NCERT for NCERT or by NCERT or UPSC or any other government approved or government institutionalized mechanized channel, you will always see that what they do is they talk always in a very broad sense. Okay, like for example, they will say that read about the fundamental rights, everything about the fundamental, or they will talk in a very generic sense. So obviously if you are going to generic sense, you won't be able to draft in the contours that what has to be studied and what can be skipped out. Okay, so you have to be very precise. So instead of going for that, let's go it one by one. Instead of like you have paper 1, paper 2, I will explain those things, that in paper 1 what you have to read, paper 2 what you have to read, paper 1 section A what you have to read, section B what you have to read. Those things will come, but first of all you need to understand a broader view of the sense what we are going to talk about. So the basic idea is that you understand that we can divide it into 5 parts, as in the very fundamental idea, like we are living in a society. Okay, we are living in a state, in a country. So what defines a country? Okay, why we cooperate, why we even listen to government, do we have a benefit out of it, why we are doing it? Okay, there's a reason for that. So for that you need to understand that, look, for example, it sounds very cynical, but just imagine the moment a child is born, what is stopping the doctor who has helped in bringing the child out in this world? What has stopped the very doctor from killing the child at the very moment that he or she is born? Sounds cynical question, but what has stopped the doctor? Tell me. Yeah. It's a pretty cynical thought, but yeah, just think about it. What has stopped the doctor from killing the child the very moment he or she is born? Think about it. Now, in a most generic and crude sense, threat perception, I think so. The doctor knows that if he or she does something like that, the license will be cancelled. They might be arrested. Okay, the country or the government of the country will take action against them. Right? It's a very straightforward thing. If someone do anything like this, even so, yeah, that much is clear. So why the government is doing that? The next question comes in, that why the government is doing that? The government is doing that because government has a responsibility towards the child. The moment the child is born, the government of the country where the child is born has a responsibility towards the child. As a human being, the child has certain rights. The right is that no one will harm the child. Fine. Now, in return, the government will also think the child should have certain way of life. If the government is assuring, the moment you are born, the government is assuring you safety. Government also wants something in return, that you will not harm someone, right? And if this two-way relationship is maintained, that you will not harm anyone, this is the assurance you give to the government, and in return the government will assure you that no one will harm you. Okay, this is the fundamental idea on which a country or a state or anything is based. So like, this is just one idea, one thought. Now we will see these kind of thoughts in great detail. This very thought is called as the social contract theory, that in this world there is a contract. Everything is working as per a contract which is done between a individual and the state. Okay, but this is just one theory. There are innumerous kind of theories like this, which is there to explain how and why whatever happens around you happens. Okay, now, so when we are going to start learning about political science, we have to learn about that what are these different ideas, what are these different thought process, how this whole system works. Okay, for example, I'll give you a basic interesting fact. Like, anyone has heard about Plato or Aristotle or Socrates? Anyone? No? Yes? Okay. So, anyone has heard this word democracy? Democracy is a process in which we also live, right? Fine. So, democracy, where the democracy concept was first evolved? Huh? Any idea? Where? Any idea? Anyone? No idea? So, the form of democracy which we use, okay, it evolved in Greece. Like, the very form which we use, it first evolved in Greece, okay, and that also almost something like 2400, 2500 years back. Okay, so it is called as the ancient Greek society over there. So right from there, we will start reading the concepts and the ideas, that how various different concepts and ideas were built. In between these process, we will also talk about, okay, like, look, there are certain things and ideas which evolved in India also. We'll talk about that. Right? So the very idea, the concepts evolved from that. We will talk about what is different political thought, how in the historical sense, how these concepts evolved and how it either benefited or caused problems for the human beings who are living in this world. And then we'll jump to the next idea or next thing, which is called as the various theories which have been built over a period of time. The one I just told you. Okay, this is a social contract. That's a kind of a theory. Okay, once we are done with this basic ideas, that okay, look, these are the different ideas as per which the world works. Now, theories are something which keep on evolving. There are certain theories that like using democratic model to run the state can be considered a theory. That look, this is how we do it. Right? What is a theory? Theory is the very concept, the set of rules and regulation which are hypothesis, but will give you a standardized conclusion. Will take you a standard. This is what we also see scientific knowledge. Whenever anyone says that give me a theory in physics or in chemistry, this is exactly what we do. That will give you an explanation for a predetermined outcome. Here also we will do this thing only. And in the modern times, there are theories. Even now the new theories are devised or developed. I'll give you an example again. For example, suppose if someone asks you that as a good Samaritan, as a good individual, as a good member of the society, you should be just. And you should do justice and treat people with equal sensibilities, right? As a part of the society, you should treat everyone in a just manner. What do you will understand from this? Any idea? If someone says that we should live in the society and treat everyone in a just and equal fashion, how you will be just towards everyone? You will treat everyone equally, but that is also not good now. Like in a general sense, you should understand that there are circumstances that people are coming from different backgrounds. People are coming from different economic background, people are coming from different social background, people are coming from different physical background. Okay, so you cannot treat everyone equally. Okay, the son of a billionaire or a daughter of a billionaire should not be treated on the same rules and regulation as someone who has been born and brought up into outright poverty, right? There has to be change of standards. Yeah, in the sense of providing facilities by the government. Fine, has to be done. Otherwise, society will not evolve. That's a concept. So, how you will do it? You will do the justice instead of anything else. The best method which has been taught in last 50 years is how you will see justice. What is even justice? So, justice has been seen as fairness. Instead of treating everyone equally, you should try and be fair towards the society. For example, there are instead of economic differences, which might make a bit of a difficult to understand it like this, that suppose a difference on the gender ground itself, male and female. Okay, so when we are looking at male and female, everyone accept this, that the world has been run as per a patriarchal model, and because of this there are outright system developed in which it is difficult for the females to evolve at the same pace as the male, right? Accepted? So to make sure that the women participation in the process of decision making is more, so that they can also have a say. Okay, government has to take extra efforts. That is the reason you will see many places it is said that, okay, look, there are certain seats reserved for the women candidates, because it is not that the government only the women should get benefited. No, government doesn't have any such agenda. Government has a simple agenda that, look, 50% of the population of the whole world is women. Women should also have a say in the decision making process, so that the rule and regulation outrightly, which over the period which are formed, are beneficial for everyone. Okay, so what the government has to do? Government has to do an extra step. Government have to take an extra extra mile, so that women can be supported. One person can say that, look, you are not treating men and women equally, but then the government will say, no, yes, we are not treating men and women equally because they are not at equal footing. So what we are doing? To be just, we are being fair. We are not being equal, we are being fair. This is a concept which was given by a scholar. His name was John Rawls in 1971. Is called as justice as fairness. Now this is also a concept. Now these kind of concepts over the period keeps on evolving. Okay, it's different period, different concept. The social contract concept I just explained you a few minutes back, that was a concept which was evolved in the year 1651. The concept I just told you now has been evolved in 1971, and the concept of democracy was evolved somewhere around 400 BCE, so almost 2400 years back. So throughout this historical sense, if you'll see, there have been different period, different concepts which have been evolved, and you need to have the basic idea about these concepts, so to be able to understand how this world works, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable in the society. So this very idea has to be done first of all, before even jumping into the modern tricks and trade and everything else. Once you are aware of these kind of concepts, like what the Greeks did, what concept they came up with, or after that what the anyone has heard about Renaissance, Enlightenment phase? Okay, so yeah, so what happened in the European society after that, and what ideas or concepts they came up with otherwise also, those things have to be read. Okay, there is one thing, the concept, the theory which was evolved in the Roman society, which has been skipped by the UPSC, that is not in your syllabus, so you don't really have to read that part. So you can skip the Roman ideas, Roman way of life, but everything else has to be done and will be done. Once you are aware with these concepts, okay, these concepts only are called in combined, in totality, everything which happened something like between 600 BCE and up till, you can say, even now, up till 1945, till the Second World War, or even after that, in 1960s, 70s, 80s, all these concepts do come from the Western world. Since we live in a modern society in India where it is important, so we called it Western political thought. Fine, because it comes from the Western world. You might also say, sir, why only Western political thought? Why don't we read Eastern political thought also? Okay, so, or some other political thought. Why Western? So the reason is very simple, that we have, whether one likes or not, but we have the colonial baggage. The way we work is, we from last 400 years we were somehow influenced from the British system, and therefore after independence we picked up on the institutions which were established by the British, and we evolved them only for our purposes. Okay, so because of this, you will see what happened is we focused more and more on the Western way of work, Western way of life and those things. So because of that idea, as well as in you will see in 1917, 80s, 90s, and after 1990s, you will see that the concept and ideas which was appreciated by the Western world was accepted as the main premise on which the whole world started working. And this happened somewhere around 1990. You might have heard about this disintegration of Soviet Union, and after that the acceptance of United States as a superpower and the unipolar world was established. So because of those reasons also, we focus much more on the Western political thought. One can always say that, sir, we should also focus on why we are not reading about what the Soviets stated or the Chinese stated. So because of these reasons, okay, their influence, the Western political thoughts influence on the way of life in India is much more. You are appearing for the civil services, so you have to work those things out first. Right? Now, this is just the political thought and the basic idea, some theories here and there. Now, once you are done with this concept, Western political thought, you also need to focus on the Indian political thought. You will see here that right from Western political thought, you have Western political thought, and then you have Indian political thought. Now, what is then Indian political thought? So understand this thing. We have to emphasize the Indian way of life also. Okay? And why it is important? Any idea why Indian political thought is important? If I have just explained you that, look, whether one likes it or not, we are influenced, we are highly influenced by the way of work English or the colonial society used to work, and we have picked up on the institutions established by the colonial authorities and evolved from there only. Okay, right from the democratic model to the parliamentary system, it is all being taken up from the British system. Okay, even your local government, if you will see, you have a district magistrate, you have a superintendent of police. This is all a system which was evolved by the Britishers only, and we picked up from there. Like on this coming 1st of July only, we are going to get a new legal system. Anyone has read about it? The CRPC, we are going to get rid of it. But the new Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, which is now coming in, it's still very much similar to the CRPC only, right? So the influence is right there. So if the influence is so high, why we are even bothered to read about Indian political thought? Any idea? Just take a guess. Any idea, any clue? Why we are even bothered? ठीक है, क्यों पढ़ना है? Why? We are basically doing everything. Like, we have elections as electoral system. We just went through elections. Like, how many people here voted? You people voted? Anyone? No. No belief in election system. What? Yeah. All of you are above 18, right? Great. Yeah, but fine. I voted that, I know. Yeah, fine. Okay, so coming back to it, it's a basic thing. Again, very fundamental. You are sitting in India, you are giving an examination in India, so you have to read about Indian political. The system is very simple. The way, the life, the cultural practices, all these things over the period of time have evolved a set of principles as per which people live their life. If you want to understand it, and you have to, if you are aspiring to become a civil servant, you have to be capable enough, okay, to understand people's problems, to understand their way of life, and then to work out the things around it. If you want to do it, you have to understand that from the historical sensibilities, from the ancient times, how the Indian people have been living, okay. And as and when you go anywhere in the services also, then you have been taught in much more detail that, look, at this place things are done like this, at this place the things are done like this, okay. In that fashion only, at the higher level, you need to understand the Indian political thought, since you are giving the examination in India, okay. If you are giving it anywhere else, okay, like if you are appearing, suppose in Bangladesh, they have also very similar civil services examination. So if you are giving exam over there, they almost teach the same thing, but they call it actually the Bangla national political thought. Or for example, if someone is appearing in Pakistan, they have much more influence of the Islamic system, but their political thought also their political thought is inspired much more from the Iranian and Persian idea. Similarly, if you are appearing anywhere, suppose in South Korea or North Korea, I really don't know, but I have checked out the South Korean system, okay. So they have the Korean political thought, okay, which is much more liberalized version and have some influence of the ancient things only. Japanese people have their own political thought. So everyone teaches Western political thought and then their own political thought, okay. The North Korean I have no clue about, okay. So that was my mistake. Now coming back to the thing, so you come to Indian political thought, and Indian political thought, again you will be taught things from the ancient times, okay. The way of life there was at the time of Gautam Buddha, or even earlier to him, the Vedic times, how people used to live then, what were the systems back then, all those things. There were like the things which are many a time are taught in as mostly as a Hindu religious practices, but a chunk of that system also has a legal document system. For example, anyone has heard about Manusmriti? Yes? No? Yes? No? What is Manusmriti? You know? Sorry? No idea. Fine. You don't have to. We'll go in detail. Just understand this thing. It's mostly it is considered as a Hindu religious text. But if you go into detail, you will understand it's a part of Dharmashastra, which was more of a legal document, legal code of conduct back in that day during the Vedic times only. Okay. Now, you will see that there have been instances in UPSC where the question have been asked about Manusmriti also. They ask you the questions on Dharmashastra, they will ask you question on Manusmriti. They will ask you that, okay, in the ancient Indian times, what were the practices? Okay, how the kings used to rule, what were the responsibility of the king? There is a huge focus now on Arthashastra. Anyone has heard about Arthashastra? No? Okay. Anyone has heard about Kautilya or Chanakya? Yeah. So he wrote a book called as Arthashastra. Okay. So in that book, again, Arthashastra, people usually think it's more about economics, but he wrote again the code of conduct for the whole society. What are the rights and duties of the individual living in the country? What is the responsibility of the king? All those things he mentioned. Okay, and that document is again and again mentioned and much appreciated, and questions have been asked from that very section, because there is a lot to learn from there. Okay, so similarly, there's like a Western political thought, there's a whole section on Indian political thought also. And Indian political thought, just like Western political thought, started in the Greek times and comes up to 1970s, 1980. I just told you example of 1971 as justice as fairness. Similarly, the Indian political thought also starts in the Vedic times. So even it goes before period earlier to Western political thought. It goes to 1000 or 1500 BC. That's when they said that Rig Veda was started being written. So that period. And it goes up to the modern times. So the ideas or the suggestions or recommendation given by Gandhi and Ambedkar, or M.N. Roy, or Aurobindo, okay, all these people, and what the ideas they suggested will be best suited for the Indian society in the modern times. All these people are covered in Indian political thought. So there will be a Western political thought, there will be Indian political thought. You must be aware of these great minds, great leaders, great scholars, what they stated in the Western world, and there are almost 9 to 10 in the Western world and 9 to 10 in the Indian side. What they stated, what they did, all those things have to be read. Once you are done with that, okay, then you are in a position to jump in and understand what is Indian constitution, how Indian government works, what are the systems. Okay, so why this pattern is being used? First of all, this pattern is being used that suppose if I'll just on the very first day I will tell you, okay, there is a constitution when we follow this rule and that rule, might mug it up, it doesn't make much of a sense. You need to be aware that you, first of all, you should be very clear that okay, why the hell we even have this system. Then you go into the nitty-gritties of the system. Okay, again the same thing. Like first of all, you need to understand why there is even a government before I can think, okay, I have to follow the government. Okay, that the people don't know, and that's why people say, okay, I don't follow the government, and at least even if they follow, they will like, okay, I don't pay the taxes. So you will understand that first of all we'll do these political ideas, political thoughts, and once you are aware of these concepts, then we jump into the understanding of how the Indian government works, how the Indian constitution works. Okay, and when we are talking about the first we'll talk about the constitution. So while doing this constitution part, most of the chunk of the section which also comes in your polity, you people must have been aware of the subject called as polity by now. Anyone has heard about the subject polity? They usually ask a lot of section in GS paper, polity section. Yeah, so that will be covered here only. Now once you are done with how government works, how governance system works, the basic questions like this comes in examination. Look, understand, there's these kind of questions. For example, they will say that, do you think, this was actually a question I think so 2015 or 2016, that do you think that the office of Prime Minister, PMO, Prime Minister's office, is getting too powerful in the government? What do you think? Yes or no? No, I'm not just talking about this time. There have been instances in historical sense also. At the time of Nehru, at the time of Indira Gandhi, back then also the office of the Prime Minister was too powerful. So do you think that this has happened? Or they will say that, do you think India is moving towards a presidential form of government? Do you know the difference between presidential form and prime ministerial form? No? Yes? Somewhere here and there. Like anyone, okay, fine. Anyone has heard about this thing till now? Anyone has heard in past 5-6 years? Till like, I consider like after like 18 or 19, when you are awake in this world, you get to know, okay, fine, there's something going on in the world also. Before that, half of the things are gone. Like, yeah, so after that, in like 4-5 years, whatever you have been alive, you must have heard about some news like, okay, the role of the Prime Minister or the senior leadership is becoming much more powerful. The chief ministers are becoming more powerful in the state. the prime ministers are becoming more powerful in the center, and that is not only in India, all around the world it is happening. Okay, so for example, you will even now, like parliament session is going on, must have seen, when I've seen the news, in parliament session is going on right now. Okay, so still there's a parliament session is going on and there's some buzz about it. Okay, but anyone is from Arunachal Pradesh? Anyone? No? Election just took place over there, no? Right? Yeah? Election took place, right? Yeah. So there must also have been an oath ceremony, just like is happening here. Anyone knows about that thing? It was not telecasted and no one really knew about it. At least in the case of parliament, you get to know that there is a parliament session going on. In state assemblies, state legislature, what has happened in past 20 years is when those assemblies are gathering, when those sessions are being conducted, what discussions are being done, no one is really bothered about. Everyone in states, frankly, that's the situation. Arunachal, Nagaland, these places are small still. Even bigger states like Maharashtra and UP, you will see that the only person will always, who is mostly in focus, is the chief minister of the state. Right? So what is happening is, in the state governments, one can say, is becoming more and more isolated and dependent on a single individual. Okay? Even right now, Odisha, few days back, election happened. Have anyone followed the Odisha election or heard about there was election in Odisha? Okay? The party in power went out. Why the people saying what people are saying? Why they went out? Anyone? Anyone who follows the news? Why they went out? They said that there was one bureaucrat who was given extreme amount of power, and he was running the whole state single-handedly. And the people at large didn't like it. Andhra Pradesh also same thing happened. The office of chief minister became so strong. Right? So what I'm trying to say here, that what is happening? The centralization of power. And questions comes very easily. They're on the direct lines. That the institutionalization of power in a single office is happening. Critically analyze. And you have to give these kind of examples. So how you will even understand that, okay, look, the chief minister is becoming too powerful and the role of the state legislature is reducing, or the prime minister is becoming too powerful and the role of the parliament is reducing. For that to be there, you need to first of all understand that, okay, if everything goes perfect, then what is the role of the parliament? If everything is going great, then what is the role of the legislative assembly? First you need to understand, then only you will be able to compare and say, oh, no, this particular person is becoming too powerful, this can go badly down the line. So that also comes in the part of Indian government and politics, and that section has to be covered. Similarly, a new section which is given huge amount of importance is called as the Panchayati Raj system. Why Panchayati Raj system is so important or has become so important? Any idea? And this is very important, and what I'm going to tell you is also important for your GS subjects. So why anyone Panchayati Raj system is so important? Over the period in last few years, you will see the Panchayati Raj system has become too important. Why? Sorry? Panchayati Raj, why it is decentralization of power. Yeah. So basically understand this thing. We live in a democracy, and the government, although many a time they are not able to, but officially in the theoretical manner, they always want to increase the participation of people. Okay? The more and more decentralization, the more and more people should take the decision. Okay? For example, if you are living in a village, okay, and there is a huge rainfall, you are living in one part of a geographical area in the country where there is more than 3000 mm of rainfall every year, right? And there is one person who is living also in a village in Rajasthan. That person has less than 50 mm of rainfall every year. Now suppose if a government official sitting in the Prime Minister's office make a law that government will sponsor making of a well or making of a lake in every village of the whole country, and in all more than 1 lakh villages of this country there will be a lake dug and whose cost will be bared by the central government. Rule sounds good, everyone will have like consistent source of water, but surely when you will the village where 3000 mm of water rainfall is happening, they don't really need a lake. Okay, they're like, we already have ample amount of water. And at the same time, the village in Rajasthan, they will say that no, don't make a lake over here, it will all get dry up. It will be just a dugout piece of land, a ditch, there will be no water retained in that place. But that this person who is sitting in Prime Minister's office, a senior bureaucrat, won't be able to understand this thing, because he cannot imply or make a single law which will be applied on 1 lakh villages. Instead of that, what he should be do, or what will be the most efficient way, is the person should ask the respective villages that, look, what do you need? Do you even need a lake? Or maybe a well will work, or maybe a pumping system will work, or maybe you already have water and you need a hospital or you need a school or something else. Why should the central government should decide? Let the villages only decide. They know their problem much better than anyone else. Just like as an individual, you know what is your biggest problem better than anyone else, right? So keeping that in fashion, government decided that we will delegate the power to the people. How does delegation will work? This is the concept of decentralization. That instead of a central authority taking the decision, we will allow the people to take the decisions, right? Behind the reason, or the fundamental concept behind this, is a concept called as subaltern studies. Anyone has heard about this concept called as subaltern studies? I'll just write it down. Give me a sec. Subaltern studies. Anyone has heard about it? Yes? No? Fine. This is a very concept you should be aware of. This will be useful in your whole civil service preparation, not only for optional. The idea is, the subaltern school says, the scholars who follow this way of teaching or this way of study, they say that suppose you are reading a normal topic, normal subject, any suppose, give me any subject you want to, like history or anything else, like geography or history, any subject, anything, sociology, which subject, anyone just tell me any subject. History, fine. So in history, what is usually taught to you? Like usually, like you will be taught in the sense that, okay, there was a king, his name was Ashok. Or even if you are taught world history, you will be said, okay, let's talk about Germany. So they will say, okay, let's talk about Hitler. Say, okay, let's talk about England, let's talk about Churchill or Queen Elizabeth. This is how it is being taught. Even if now, if you'll see, even if about India, someone sitting in some other part of the world, they will say, okay, let's talk about India. So they will say, okay, fine, let's talk about Gandhi, or let's talk about Buddha, or in the modern time, let's talk about Modi. That's what they will do. What you are doing again is you are focusing on famous personalities. Okay. History also worked in this fashion only from the historical time. Or all the studies, all the subjects around the world, we have focused on study of individual character, the important characters. But in the modern times, the scholars have realized that no, we are not concerned about individual, no matter how important they are. So if we are reading about France, we don't really need to only focus on Napoleon. We need to focus on the people who are living in Paris. What are their concerns? When we were talking about Ashok in Mauryan times, we are not concerned about, okay, whether Ashok won against Kalinga or what really happened over there, that's a concern out for some other day. We need to focus on, okay, what was happening in his capital city of Patliputra. When we are talking about Gandhi, we are not concerned about Gandhi as such as an individual or his personal life, or that is not of our concern. We are talking about that how Gandhi influenced individuals at large, and did he provided any way out for the people at large. Okay, so people-centric study approach. Okay, in the modern times, we are not concerned about the sitting prime minister or the chief minister of the states. No, we are concerned about, okay, what is happening in the state, what is happening in the center, how the economics is working, what is the per capita income. So focus has to be on those factors which impact people at large and not about individuals. Right? So this approach of study of everything, whether you are teaching political science, whether you are teaching sociology, whether you are learning history, all the subject is called as Subaltern Perspective. Okay, talking about the common people and their problem, their concerns. And why it is important for you? Because government know that as an aspiring civil servant, at the end of the day, when you will be in service, your responsibility will be towards the people at large, right? And to be capable enough to run the show on the ground or make policy for the people, you should have an approach which will be talking about the majority of the people in the country. Okay, you should not talk about the one individual, you should talk about 99% of the people at large. Right? So keeping this in mind, you will see the questions also in the examinations which are asked are on this pattern only. Even in the preliminary examination, you will see the question are not asked, okay, tell me something about Vijayanagar Empire, or the question won't be about tell me something about Jawaharlal Nehru. The question will be more about, okay, what Constituent Assembly stated, or how this very societal factor in the Vijayanagar Empire used to be. So the focus is always on people only. So whenever you are studying these things, the whole preparation of civil services, this has to be from the subaltern perspective only. Now here also the same thing will be applied. So in Indian government and politics system also this thing has to be applied. Now once you are aware of this thing, you are aware of Indian political thought and the Western political thought, and you are also aware of Indian government and politics, as in you know about what the constitution, all the article numbers, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive principles, how the parliament work, how the president is elected, how the prime minister is elected. These things are also taught to you in the polity subject. This will again be taught here. So this is the overlapping section, but here something additional will be taught. Over there in polity, in GS subject, you will be taught, okay, there is a parliament, this is the article number, there is a president, this is the article number of which defines the election process, this is the article number from using which the president has a responsibility to appoint the prime minister. But what is the role of the prime minister? Whether the prime minister has been working good or bad, the critical analysis of that section, that is something which is a job in the political science section. So once you are aware with this whole process of Indian government and politics, then we jump into the other section which is outside India, on the international level. First you know the basic theories, then you go to the studying Indian political system. Once you are done with that, then we jump to the next section, that is the international level, and that is the section of international relations. Now when we jump into international relations, there are again concepts, again some theory. First of all, you need to understand to analyze the international level stuff. For example, I'll give you the most basic stuff. Anyone has heard about there are all these indices? You might have heard, okay, India has fallen further in the press freedom index, or India has improving on business development index. These kind of things always get published in newspapers. Anyone has heard about this? Or India is doing better on the GDP front. India's growth rate is 6.7% or between 6 and 7% it's going to be, and so India is going to be one of the most or the best in working mid-level economy in the world. Anyone has heard this? So what, when someone says that India is going to do, like this is a process which is happening right now, India is going to perform between 6 to 7% growth rate on the GDP front in the coming year. That means India is the best developing, economically speaking, best developing mid-level economy. Okay. When I'm speaking this thing, that means I'm comparing India with some other countries. India must be compared with some countries like Germany, Japan, UK, at least. China and America are doing far better, but at least Germany, Japan, UK, we are comparing continuously. Okay. So what we are doing here, we are doing comparison, right? And a huge chunk of international relations section is always about comparison. Okay. And this is something which is not even needed to be taught. This is something which is already inside us, comparison. Like you are preparing here, your parents will be comparing you with your relatives. Those things will be going on. Yeah, no. But understand this thing, the comparison thing works in that manner all the time. Okay. So the international relation is, the very first section in the international relation is also comparative politics. Okay. The first thing you need to understand in international relations is always about comparative. What you can compare constitutions. Like for example, you will be taught that how United States of America has Bill of Rights. We have our fundamental rights. Okay. So then we always say that when it comes to certain principles about gender laws, you find India at much better stance than many of the Western countries also. Okay. For example, India provided voting right to women at the same time in 1950 as men got the voting right. Although in UK, the men got the voting right in all the men in generic level got the voting right in 1832, but the women got the voting right only in 1929. Or a country like Switzerland, where the women got the voting right only in 1979. Okay. So when you compare it that way, you will see that one can say, okay, India, when it comes to gender front or giving equality rights to women, we are in a way performing better than the Western countries. Okay. So what we have done again, a comparison. So the very first section, when you are done with Indian political thought and the basic ideas of the theory and the thought, you jump into the studies of comparison for the international relations. So there are various means and methods through which this comparison is done. For example, suppose ma'am, I'll ask you, like, you have to compare India with America. On what things you want to compare India? Yeah. Suppose if you have to compare India with America, what you want to compare India with America? Think about it. Just take a take 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Just think about it. If you have to compare India with America. Economy, yeah. Governance, great. Yeah, good. Anything else? Okay. Now, if India has to be compared with Pakistan, then defense. Yeah, good. Economy again, fine. And maybe also the faith thing or the cultural idea, because we are culturally connected, and in 70 years we have evolved in a different phase and they have evolved in a different say, when like we have kind of maintained our nature or went towards liberalism, although the Pakistani society have went more on the conservative side. Okay. So maybe that thing, faith wise and all that comes in the sociological thing, that how the society works. Okay, that thing can be compared. So if you do comparison, then in this only, someone told me the very first thing is economy. So actually, when the comparative politics will be taught to you, the very first topic which will be taught to you is economic perspective of the comparative politics. That how you should compare different countries on the economic lines. Then a topic will be taught to you which will say the sociological perspective of the comparative point. When you are going to compare two institutions or two government or two countries, how you will compare their societies, or the sociological analytics. Okay, so like this only, there are various other small sections under which you will be performing these comparison, and the tools will be told to you that how it is done. Right? Once you will be done with this whole comparison thing, then the next idea will be brought to you, and that will be in the modern sense of the thing. I will take a minute and will make a lot of sense to you. Like suppose there's a small story I'll tell you. Anyone has heard about World War II? Yes? Yeah? So what happened is, somewhere around 1938, when was the World War II started? Sorry? 1939, great. September 1st, 1939, Germany attacked Poland and the Second World War started. So just prior to it, there was an agreement between Britain and Germany. Okay, that was in 1938, 1 year prior to it. Okay, in that agreement, and that is famously called as the Munich Pact or Munich Agreement, and in that agreement it was decided that a certain section, certain piece of land in Czechoslovakia will be given to Germany, and with this reach in this territory, Germany assured the Western countries, that America and not America but Italy and even Britain, that they will not offer, and France also, that they will not attack anyone else. But within a year they attacked Poland, and then in retaliation the British and the French, because they have assured Poland that we will help you, so they had to attack Germany, and the World War started. So when the whole World War, the whole fiasco ended, then we always say that the French government and the British government and American government, they called in all the political scientists, all the political scholars, and they all like, "Idhar aao, come here. We are paying you so much. Take salaries. What's your job? Your job is to analyze." What's the job of a political scientist? The job of the political scientist is to analyze what is going around the world and make predictions. Tell the world leaders that, look, if you will do this, this will happen. So be conscious. That is the job of a political scientist. So they were asked that what you have done, why you are not able to predict that even after this pact, nothing is going to work. The political scientist said that, look sir, we were taking a legal approach. What the legal approach said is, since there is a legal agreement, the country will be binded by it and they will follow the norms. Now they have not followed it, so what we can do? Fine. Germany had signed an agreement, but still they attacked Poland, so what we can do? We thought that, okay, everyone has been, since time immemorial, everyone is being following legal agreements. We thought they will also follow it. They didn't follow. What we can do? So a understanding was reached, okay, these things, your methods are not working. Let's work on some new methods. So already there was one method called as the behavioral approach. And it's a very simple thing. Instead of anything else, we will look at your behavior. Behavioral approach. They said that if you would have just seen, or if you have just read the writings of Adolf Hitler, what he was writing in 1920s and what he was speaking in his speeches in 1930s, you would have been able to predict what the hell he was going to do. But instead of his writings, his speeches, you just focused on that, look sir, he has signed an agreement. So instead of focusing on what people are actually writing, or writing in signature wise or commitments, you actually focus on the individuals, their ideas, their perspective, their background, where they are coming from, and you will be able to predict what they will do if they come in power. Right? So this is one of the kind called as behavioral approach. And when we talking about behavioral approach, they said that we will take it in analytical terms. Okay, by that time 1950s 1960s has come, so a lot of data sciences has also evolved. So they said we will take it in a very analytical term, we will do everything on the numerical values and set, and we will give you the answer. So that is the system which evolved in 1960s. But later on that system also failed. By 1980s or 1990s, people said, look, this system is also not working. Many a time people have written certain things, have done certain things, or have spoken certain things, but they actually follow the norms and the mandate. So then the people said, okay, yeah, that is also true. Many a time you will see a leader, while being in a party leader, used to speak in a different manner. For example, if you'll see the NDA-1 government, you see the government of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Atal Bihari Vajpayee came from BJP. He was a very conservative party back in the day in 1980s. But when he became the Prime Minister of India, he became one of the most liberal parliamentarian and one of the most liberal Prime Minister in India. So he was very conservative in his personal regards, but when it came to actually running the state, he became very liberal. So what he did? He went against the behavioral standards. So this happened around the world for a lot of people and a lot of countries also. So to understand those concepts, they had to come with a new concept, and that was called as, since it was coming after behavioral approach, they called it post-behavioral approach. And like this, there are many concepts which you have to study, you have to learn. Now, when you have learned these concepts, then we will jump into trying and understanding how the economics of the world works. And this is again very important, because in the modern day and time, you will see in the services also, not only in the examination, that on every other day, if there is a civil servant and they are working on the international front, they are not going to fight or on the defense front with other country all the day. Like India, China has a border dispute. Yes, we have a border dispute. Okay, but every other day we are not fighting China on the border dispute, but we are surely fighting them on a trade dispute. Okay, so the trade in past years, past 50, 60, 70 years has become very, very important. And so there is a whole chunk of section that how WTO works, World Trade Organization, and what is the role of India in the World Trade Organization. And similarly, what is the role of India on the international front as in United Nations? What India is expecting its roles towards the Indian neighbors. For example, anyone has followed the oath ceremony of the Prime Minister? Just happened. She just rejected it. She was like, no, don't follow TV. Whatever comes on TV, I don't follow. Yeah. So what, anyone? No one has seen the oath ceremony of the Prime Minister? Okay. So if you will see, not only this time, in 2014, the leaders of the SAARC countries were invited. Okay, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. The neighboring countries of India, okay, their leaders were invited. In 2019, the countries who are part of called as BIMSTEC, that is a group of countries who are around the Bay of Bengal region, they were invited. So it was said that in 2014, the focus was on the SAARC countries, that India want to evolve and develop relations with the SAARC country like Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, all these countries. Then in 2019, it was stated, no, this time the focus is not on the northwest, because there is a huge dispute with Pakistan, but the focus continues on the east. So right from Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, India, along with Myanmar, even Thailand, they were invited. Now in 2024, it has been seen that the focus is more on Maldives, Sri Lanka, Seychelles, okay, these kind of countries, and Mauritius also. So that shows what? That this time our focus is much more on the Indian Ocean region. Okay, so the intention is to aspire or to take the responsibility of security on the Indian Ocean front. So like this, India has a huge role to play at various sections in the world. For example, in Indian Ocean region. Similarly, India has a role to play in the African continent. India also maintains good relations with the Latin American countries as well as the whole South American continent. So we will then be learning, and we will be going through the process of seeing that how the relations have evolved with all these countries in the historical sense, and how we can evolve it further. So for example, anyone would like to tell me that why India is so interested in the Indian Ocean region? Why India is so interested in Indian Ocean region? Sorry? Trade. Okay. Anything else? China, because China is trying to, that's the main reason. Like trade is the reason, but why we are threatened? Because China is trying to increase their presence in Indian Ocean region. Okay. So it has happened actually in the past one, and that is example. For example, if you see, anyone has heard about that there was this guy, his name was Vasco da Gama, who came to India. When he came to India? 1498. Okay, at the cusp of the 16th century, 15th century. Now 16th century actually. Yeah. So now you will see that he came, and with him came the Portuguese. They established themselves in India, and subsequently what they did? They started controlling the whole Indian Ocean region. The Portuguese had their bases on the east coast of Africa. They also established their bases on the west coast of India. And because they had their presence on the east coast of Africa, places like in what we call now as Kenya or Tanzania, or there's a place called as Zanzibar, all these places they were present. And on the west coast of India, in Kochi and Goa, all these places they were present. So they controlled the whole of the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean region. And when they controlled the Indian Ocean region, they became so powerful that when you will be taught history, you will be taught that Mughals never were allowed to make their own navy. You will be taught that Mughals were only a land power, were never a sea power, because already they were Portuguese who were so powerful. That played a very vital reason. That is a very vital reason why the Europeans came to India, and never ever you will see Indians going to the West. Everyone knows this much, that the Europeans came to India for the trading purposes, and over the period, one among them, the Britishers, captured India. That is a basic knowledge. So why only they came to India? They came here as a trader. So why didn't we only took our product to their country? Because we are not a naval power. It was impossible for us to go there. Why it was so? Because we were not allowed to develop our naval power. Why were not allowed to develop? Because there was already a naval power next to us who were controlling everything. So it is all connected. So that is the reason you will see that initially Portuguese controlled the Indian Ocean region between 1509 and 1612. And then from 1612 until 1956, the Britishers controlled the Indian Ocean. And we were allowed to have a say in Indian Ocean region only after 1956. And therefore, we want to make sure that that influence which we now have in the Indian Ocean region should not go up. There is a historical sensibility to it. And therefore, we are very wary of China, and therefore we wanted to make sure to have good relations with all these countries in the Indian Ocean at all costs. So this is just an example like this only. There are many standardized reasons for a lot of things. Okay. And once we are done with this section, then we'll jump into international relations, and we'll do topics like standard, like what is happening between Russia and Ukraine, and what is happening between Israel and Palestine, and all those things. So any idea? Like I'll just explain this thing, since you are sitting here, should have some tangible benefit. What is the reason between what's the reason between the Russia-Ukraine war? Putin doesn't like Zelensky. No. What's the reason for Russia-Ukraine war? NATO. Okay. Anything else? What's the fundamental reason? NATO is a reason, no denying, but that's not the fundamental reason. The core reason, the why. Why there is a Russia-Ukraine war? Why? Core reason. Russia wants to annex Ukraine. What they will do with that? Like, there are some Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, but no, that's also not. It's not the intention is not to annex Ukraine ever. That will just increase militancy in Russia. That is not no use. What's the reason? Anything else? Anyone has heard about the concept called as warm water policy? Warm water policy. No? Yes? No? Fine. People have seen the map of Russia? Okay. So, suppose if you have to go to Russia by sea route, how you'll go? Suppose you are in India, suppose you are in Mumbai, you have to go to Russia. How you'll go? First you will go from Mumbai to maybe Suez Canal, okay, to the Red Sea, and from there, from Suez Canal, you will enter into the Mediterranean Sea, okay. From the Mediterranean Sea, there is a section which goes through Turkey, okay, and you will enter into an area which is where the Ukrainian border is there, a bit of a Russian border is there, and then you will enter into the Russian port cities, okay. Now, that is the easiest way. The other way is that you will go into Mediterranean and then you will cross the Gibraltar, the port of Gibraltar, and you will cross the English Channel, and then you will go to the northern cities of Russia, that is St. Petersburg. Right? That is in the North Sea region. That's the northern part. Okay. The problem with the North Sea region and on those sites is there are specific seasons when the ports, the channels on those sites are not very active, as well as the population, the major chunk of the world population actually lives in Mediterranean and Suez Canal region, and subsequently on the Indian side and the Chinese side. Okay. So if the Russian cities, which are mostly in the western world, western part of Russia, they want to have connectivity in the world, with the world, they should have a say, a route in the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. And this is a stated fact from the 18th century, that the Russians will do anything and everything to have a say in the Mediterranean. Okay. As and when Ukraine becomes a part of NATO or comes closer to the Western world, that route of Russia will be chopped off, will be cut down. And that is something which Russia doesn't want. Because of this very reason, you will see the Russians are always hesitant. They will always do something to have their presence in the near the Mediterranean Sea. So you will see the new cities popping up, new things must be happening. And even as that, there was a Winter Olympics once happened in the city of Sochi. There's a city in Russia called as Sochi, and they organized a Winter Olympics over there. They spent more than $50 billion. Russia never had that kind of money. They spend that kind of money just to make sure that they will have a booming city in the area from where they can have a direct connectivity with the Mediterranean. So the reason is not only that they want to annex Ukraine or they don't like Ukraine coming closer to NATO. Those things are secondary. That's correct. Everyone knows, okay, fine. The reason is because the Ukrainians were getting close to NATO, and that's Russia doesn't like that thing. But why Russia doesn't like Ukraine going close to NATO? Because if they go close to NATO, the route for Russia to the Mediterranean will be closed whenever the NATO will want it. And that is something which Russia don't. It is from the time of Peter the Great that this warm water policy has been executed. and Russia will do anything and everything to make sure that they have access to the warm waters. What is warm waters? Because hemispheres works like this, that the water in the northern hemisphere, you will see there are seasons when the whole waterfront is iced up and the ships cannot move, so the trade get affected. You will even see in the historical sense in 1970s, 1980s, when the Russians or the Soviet Union back then had attacked Afghanistan, this was the logic given by the Western world, that they have attacked Afghanistan because after Afghanistan they will enter into Pakistan, and from Pakistan they will enter into Arabian Sea, and they will have access in the Arabian Sea. So that's the ongoing threat of Russia in the mind of the Western world, that they will always and they will continue to do each and everything possible to have access to the warm waters. Warm waters are basically, it's not like boiling water, warm water. Warm water is basically that region where water don't get iced up, so the ships can travel. That's a basic thing. So that is the reason, fundamental reason. Okay, so these kind of issues have to be discussed in the international. Okay, so what I've just told you is the basic idea of what all you have to study in this. Okay, now once this is done, then directly come to this and you can read. Officially your syllabus is defined into 4 parts. Okay, what all I have told you just now in a generic sense has been evolved, and like the printouts are not that good. I'll tell them, they will give you the PDFs also. Okay, so basically this is your syllabus listing. Okay, and this is done in a much better manner, not in the way UPSC has done it on the website. That will be too difficult to read, at least in the initial stages. So what we have done is we have analyzed the papers from past, like whatever was available, so basically from more than 30 years, and we have compartmentalized all the sections and the percentage questions that come from the paper. So in the course we will be very precise that what we are reading, as in what topic has to be given how much time, because okay, it sounds good, okay fine, I can teach you a lot of stuff, but we will focus specifically on what is required for clearing the examination instead of just reading up stuff. Okay, I can tell you about Plato for like 3 days continuously, but it won't be of any use. Okay, so that's the thing. So we will precisely do it. So for example, we have analyzed the paper and we know that okay, when it comes to Western political thought, so 20% of the questions have come from that section. We'll accordingly allocate the number of hours we will be putting in. Similarly, the Indian political thought has been 18% of the questions have been asked from there, so we'll be accordingly putting up hours on that. Then the syllabus is defined here. Okay, what all you need to read, but obviously this is the standard way of defining the syllabus, which have been defined by the UPSC on their website also, that the political theory first, theory of state, those things. But we'll start from the Western political thought, because before even jumping into different theories and concepts, it is important that you understand who gave these concepts, under what circumstances they came up with this concept, and what it meant. Fine. Instead of just going through a very statement that this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens, you should first of all understand who said this and why the hell he said that. So Western political thought will start with, okay, and then we'll jump into Indian political thought, and accordingly the other concepts which we have I have given you a brief idea, so those things are written here. Now once this section will be done, then we'll go to section B, paper 1 section B, and that is basically the whole concept of Indian government and politics. This is the section which will have extensive amount of overlapping with your polity section. So you have GS paper 2. In GS paper 2 you will have subjects in GS paper: polity, governance, okay, social justice and international relations. So in that, polity and governance is something which will be covered also here in great detail. Okay, so that section is here. Now I am telling you right now here itself that when you will be doing this thing, the first very topic, you can just mark in your handout the Indian nationalism section. Okay, this is a very interesting section because this has extensive overlap, the very first chapter, from your modern history book. Okay, when you will be taught modern history, and this very section, Indian nationalism, has extensive overlap. But the way to read this section is different. For example, anyone has heard about Sepoy Mutiny or the revolt of 1857? Yeah? Okay. Now, in your history books, you have been taught that Sepoy Mutiny, or the first, it is also called as the first war of Indian independence, 1857. So, in your history books, it's taught to you that, okay, the specific incident, how it happened, what was the causes of the action, what really happened, how Bahadur Shah ended up leading the whole thing, how it ended by June 1858, and what were the after effects. All these things are taught to you in history itself. Okay. In the question paper, in political science paper, there was a question in 2015 which stated that analyze the revolt of 1857 is a Sepoy Mutiny or first war of Indian independence. Analyze whether the war of the revolt of 1857 is a Sepoy Mutiny or first war of independence. So in your history syllabus, you have been taught that these 5 are the causes because of which revolt happened. Then this is the timeline of the revolt. That revolt started in May 1857, went up till June 1858. These people were the main leaders of the revolt. This is how they won, this is how they lost, and these were the effects of the revolt. These things have been taught. The causes have been taught, the consequences have been taught, and what happened during the revolt has also been taught. The leaders of the revolt were also told to you. But never ever it was told to you that some people are calling the same revolt as Sepoy Mutiny, and some other people are calling the same revolt as first war of independence. This is a change of mindset only, no? So why it is so? So the Britishers always saw that thing as a Sepoy Mutiny because it was good for them. If they are saying that, look, no, this is nothing more than our army personals have some grudges against us and they revolted. This is something which they can resolve. On the other side, Indian leadership or Indian scholars later on stated that no, it was the first war of Indian independence. Why they said so? So in 1909, V.D. Savarkar wrote a book, The First War of Indian Independence, 1856. And he redefined the whole revolt as the first war of Indian independence. And then Congress accepted. Why they did so? Because suppose if I'll tell you that on the first day itself, when you come to prepare for civil service, I'll tell you, no, it's very difficult. It's undoable. No one has ever done it. It will become more difficult for you, right? But if I'll tell you, no, it's doable. Look, there are so many photos outside. All these people have done it. They were also like you. And if they have done it, you can also do it. At least there will be a sense of comfort. And maybe 10 months into the preparation, you will be like, yeah, it seems like doable. But if on the first day, I'll just tell you, no one I know has ever done this thing. This is impossible. It will almost become impossible that very moment, right? So for the Indian people also, when the Congress and the other people were on the process of explaining it to the Indian people at large, Indian masses, that look, we have to get out of the shackles and we have to fight the Britishers. The very first thing was to inform people that look, it is not that we are fighting the Britishers for the first time. We have already been fighting them from 1857. Let's fight them a bit more, that they will be exhausted and just leave. So it becomes easier. So therefore a narrative was built that the revolt of 1857 was the first war of independence, and this was propounded and supported by the Indian leadership. Okay, whether it was or not, it will always be a debate. Okay, you will ask any British person, they will say no, it was just few of our sepoys who in few of the subaltern perspective. Okay, so that is something which will be taught here in this very section. The subaltern perspective of Indian nationalism. That is, instead of focusing just on Nehru and Gandhi and Dadabhai Nehruji, you will have to understand that what was the Indian peasantry doing, what was the farmers doing, what were the industrial laborers doing, industrial workers doing. That will be taught here. Okay, so those sections will be taught here. Then the constitution, then the standard Indian constitution will be taught to you, that the salient features of the constitution, how the government works. Then this very section is the complete overlap with the polity section, so it will be extensively helpful for you for your GS paper 2 also. Now once you are done with all this section, then we will jump into paper second, section A. Again the compartmentalization, how much importance have to be given to what topic, will be from here. And we'll start again with the basic thing I just told you. Once we are done with the Indian government and politics, we'll jump into comparative politics. In the international relations, the first thing we do is we compare ourselves with other countries. So we'll start with comparative politics. Then we will talk about the representation, participation, concepts of globalization, key concepts in international relation, economic capitalist ideas and all that thing. And after doing the basic institutions or global institutions like United Nations or NATO or SAARC or BIMSTEC or World Trade Organization and all these things, then we'll jump into the what we call as the hardcore international relation thing, that is paper 2 section B. Okay, now in paper 2 section B, again the very basic idea is there are some fundamental ideas of Indian foreign policy. What are the basic ideas we will be teaching, will be discussing here? Look, India is a very interesting country in this sense. For example, whether the Congress has the government or the BJP has the government, okay, except Israel Palestine, that has just become an issue now, except that on all other front the ideological stance of the government is same. Fine. For example, it's not like the one party has very good relations with China, other party doesn't have good relations with China. Neither of them will have good relations with China. Okay, when it comes to Pakistan, the attitude is almost similar. When it comes to, so international relation in India that way is a very interesting thing, that the ideological stance of government of India doesn't changes with the party in power. That is not the case with all the countries, although in the recent part it has been seen in past 10 years that when it comes to the issue of Israel Palestine, the two sides have a very different orientation. For example, the opposition right now, when they were in power before 2014, they always maintained a neutral relationship with Israel and Palestine. And right now you will see, although India officially maintains neutrality, but you will see that up to a certain extent we are much more closer to Israel. That one crisis in the world is there where the two sides have a different orientation. But beyond that, you will see the agendas or the contours as per which Indian foreign policy works is same whether whichever side of the aisle you are from Indian Parliament. That is not the case for all around the world. For example, if you will see United States of America, okay, when Barack Obama was the president, the foreign policy agenda was very different from when the Donald Trump was the president. Okay, so their stance towards Cuba changed, their stance towards Russia changed, their stance towards Ukraine-Russia war changed. Fine. So there are countries like US, UK, where with the party in power, the foreign policy agenda of the state also changes. But that is not the case in India mostly. So therefore, up to certain extent, the Indian foreign policy issue becomes a bit easier to understand. But again, the dynamics have to be read, that what are the major concerns or what are the major issues, and then subsequently the global issues we have to cover. So that is the defined syllabus which is there with you. Now after that, there's a book list also provided to you in this. Now this, if you are like going, this book list is not to be like written there, you don't have to buy it, please don't. Okay, if you want to pass in the examination, don't even buy any of those books. Those books are just mentioned there because that's a standard practice. Okay, if you'll buy all those books, you won't clear, so don't. Fine. No, the reason is very simple. Most of those books are defined for the master's courses, and the way the exams have evolved in last 5 to 7 years, if you start buying up those books and reading from top to last, first to last pages, the syllabus will never be completed, and you don't need that kind of understanding. The kind of understanding which you need is that you should be able to write 200, 300, 400 words on a specific topic. You don't need to write 1500 words on a specific topic anymore. So those kind of books are not really required, although if and when there will be a small need of anything, okay, this particular section has to be done, I will provide you Xerox copies of this particular section, whatever is needed. You don't have to purchase the whole complete book set, but that's a standard practice. You should be aware at least, so that once you start and you know more, if suppose someone comes and tells you like, have you read O.P. Gauba? You shouldn't feel like, what the hell is O.P. Gauba? Should be okay, yeah, I have read it. I have read Nelson also. You just tell them 2 or more books. They should be afraid, not you. Okay, so that's a book list, and after that there's also a schedule given to you for when is the class starting and on what date what we will be doing. So basically what happens, sometimes we start the course and in between there are some mismatching is done, so students are also not aware that what date what class is going to happen and schedule wise. So that is also being given to you for the whole syllabus, so you can follow those things also, right? That's it. Now queries, questions regarding the whole thing? Yeah, ask me. No? Yes? Any queries? Yeah. Nothing? No queries, no questions? Anyone, any queries? No? Fine, done. Then we'll wrap up the lecture. Okay. Thank you everyone.